All right, good evening and welcome to our job searching with Google class tonight. We will be doing deadlines and tasks with calendar. We're going to give everyone just a few minutes who's joining us online to get online and settled and to get everyone in the room comfortable with us as well. While we're doing that, I'm just going to go over some guidelines for tonight's program. So, first things first, my name is Jamie. I'm a librarian here at the Harrington Library. I'm also joined by Eric, who is going to be helping us with the virtual tech support and chat. So for those of you in the room, if you have questions, you are welcome to raise your hand and ask a question at any time. For those of you who are joining us online, you can make use of either that Q&A feature or the chat feature in Zoom to pass your questions along. Eric will make sure that I get them here in the room, and then we'll repeat them so that everybody hears all of the questions no matter where we get them. Our virtual attendees will be muted and have their video blocked during tonight's program. So you should only see my screen as well as the video of me teaching, just so you're kind of in the room with us while we're going along. At the top of that Zoom window, you should see an exit full screen button in case you need to get out of Zoom and get to other things on your computer, including that Google account. Now, during the program, you're welcome to ask as many questions as you'd like. Ask me to repeat information, ask me to clarify anything that does not make sense. Tonight's class is all about making sure that you get information that helps and is useful to you. So please feel free to ask any questions that you need during the program. And like I said just a minute ago, we will repeat any questions that we get both in the room and online to make sure that everyone can hear them during the program. And a recording of this program will be available online in just a couple of days as well. So if you're following along either here or online and you want to watch that video again in the future, that is an option for you that will be posted up to our YouTube channel. If you would like to follow along using your own Google account tonight, you may. I do encourage you to do that and play around with features and see what makes sense to you so you can kind of see what we're doing as well. But keep in mind, it's going to be very hard for us to provide that individual one-on-one troubleshooting. So if you do run into specific questions with your account, make a note of them, and I'll either try to address them at the end, or we can schedule some one-on-one time to go through those questions with you as well. I will try and take it slow, just in case you're practicing along with me during tonight's program. And then our last piece of technical business before we get started. I just need to remind you, I am a librarian. I am not a business expert. I'm not a career expert. So everything that I'm sharing with you tonight is an introduction, an overview, and designed to help get you started. Your specific approach to how you do your job search, how you set up your calendar, how you do your resume is going to be very personal and specific to your needs. All right. All of the formal stuff is out of the way, so let's get down to business. The goal for tonight's class is going to be exploring Google Calendar. So let's get this first window out of the way and move over to our Google Drive homepage. And we're going to be talking about how you use Calendar to manage your job search activities. We're going to talk about how to navigate it, how to use it, how to set up appointments, how to set up reminders, different things like that. This is part of an ongoing class series. So last time we met 2 weeks ago, we talked about Google Drive and Gmail. So if you have questions about those or you weren't able to join us for that class, that recording is available online. We will also have 2 more classes that dive into Google Docs for resume and Google Sheets for job search tracking, and we'll share information about those at the end of today's class. So, what is Google Calendar? Google Calendar is Google's online calendar that can be used to organize your schedule and coordinate events with others. It has a lot of other features, including a task tracker that you can use to make to-do lists and keep up with things that you need to get done, an event planner, and you can also coordinate events with others. So it's great for organization, for time management, for collaborating and sharing, for customizing those notifications and reminders. And it also offers what we call seamless integration, or just very, very easy, no extra steps required, with programs like Zoom that you can add in your meeting invites from Zoom right into Google so that you have everything all in one spot. It also has accessibility across devices as well. Everything that I'm doing tonight is going to be using the desktop client, but 99% of this can also be done using the app if you prefer to do that as well. So right now I'm on the Google Drive homepage, and I have a couple of different options for getting to calendar. Over here in the corner, I've got that little calendar icon. I can click on that, and that's going to bring up a preview of my calendar. But that's not really going to give us all of the information and features that we want to really explore calendar. So I'm going to close out of that. Instead, I'm going to use that 9 grid box up at the top, and I'm going to scroll down to calendar and select it there. And that's going to open up my calendar in a separate window for me so that I can see everything going on. So let's talk about the different parts that we have on this interface. So right here at the top is my main menu. I can just click on that to open and close that preview. Just click and close to be able to see the full calendar view, other calendars, and the ability to create events. For now, I'm going to go ahead and keep that main menu open because we will be using some of those features. I am going to come over here and close that little taskbar because we're not going to use that just yet. So you will see this create icon right here, this plus sign that says create. This is where you go to create new events, tasks, appointments. It's as simple as just clicking on that to see the options that I have available. And once I choose one, it will pop up the options to actually create that event. Underneath that, I've got a little miniature calendar. So I can see January at a glance. If I needed to look ahead to next month, I can use those arrows and just slide over and see February, March, while still seeing my full calendar on that big screen. Underneath, I will also see the option for multiple calendars. So if I have multiple calendars, we'll talk about in a little bit. So you might have one for your job searching, but you might have a separate calendar that has like your family events because you want to keep those things separate. These little check boxes will let you hide or show those calendars at a time so that you can see everything that's going on. So say I don't want to see holidays. I can uncheck that, takes that right off of my calendar. Or I can put it right back on. If I want to jump right to a specific day, I can just click right on the date in that little calendar and say, oh, I want to go see where's the 17th. There it is. And I can also click on that day in the calendar to see the hour by hour look at that day as well. I can also use that today button to get back to today if I've gone to a different day, or these arrows will let me scroll through to different days one at a time as well. I can also flip through those months, like I said, using those arrows here. I can go forward, backwards to see different things going on my calendar. Let's go back and take that back to just my overall calendar. Let that refresh for us. Okay, maybe that's special. So up here on the top, I do have some options for how I'm viewing. So right now I'm looking at day. You can choose to look at the week. You can choose to look at the month, or if you really need a really big overview, you can also go and look at the entire year at once as well. You also have some options to search through your calendar. This magnifying glass is going to be your search icon, and you can use that to search for events. I can do that just by typing. So I might say, you know what, I'm looking for an interview. Ooh, I can see that I had something back in October and go to that event and see the specific event that I have. I also have more options if I click on that little arrow, and I can search in a specific calendar or just every calendar I have open. I can search the what, I can search the who. So if I remember the person I'm supposed to be meeting with, but I don't remember what I called that appointment, I can search by that person's name instead. If it has a location, if I've put it's at the Harrington Library, I can search by that location to find it. I can also look in a specific date range if I think, I'm pretty sure that's sometime in February, but I'm not sure when. I can do from date of, February 1st and go through February 29th, just to look in that specific month for the event that I'm looking for. And that will help you just narrow down your search options. Close out of that search option. You've also got your little question mark icon will take you to your help and support should you need that. We'll give you things like common questions for navigating the interface, troubleshooting your account, updates with Google, things like that. And then your settings icon will let you access your personal account settings as well. So you can do things like look for your deleted events, edit the color of your event, choose your time zone, all kinds of fun things through that settings menu. Just use that back arrow to go back. I'm going to go ahead and switch our view back to our month, just so it looks a little bit more traditional while we're doing that. And then you will also have still that little keep icon, your tasks icon, and your contacts icon that we saw last week when we were in Google Drive. Those same features will be right there on the side for you to easily get back into. You also will have the link for Google Maps on there as well, in case you were, say, at an interview. Ooh, I need some directions on how to get there. That'll let me pop over to Google Maps really quick. I'm looking for Haggard Library. I can get directions. Say I'm starting here at the library. I can pull up a little preview of those directions without ever leaving my calendar, or I can choose to open that up in Maps and see the full big picture of it. Okay, so that's the getting around of Google Calendar. Very exciting. Any questions so far? Awesome. So let's talk about how we're actually going to use our calendar and look at things like creating events. So the first thing we're going to do tonight is just make a simple event. And I can do that a couple of different ways. I can go under create and do event, or I can go right to the calendar and do it. And let's say I want to put something on Monday. I can open up Monday and think, where on Monday do I want to put it? Or if I go back to that view, if I double click on that calendar square, it's also going to open up this event box for me. And this is where I'm going to start putting in information. So the first thing I'm going to do is put in a title, and I can call my event anything that I want to. So let's say for this one, I'm going to go ahead and put in Job Resource Connection, which is something that I know is happening at the library that I want to come to. Next thing I need to do is make sure that I have my dates right. So since I double clicked on the calendar, it's going to open up automatically to that date. But if I clicked on the wrong day, wanted to move it around, I can go ahead and click where it has the date and select the correct date. This is also where I can put in if it's something that goes for more than one day. So say I'm traveling for a week for a conference, I can put in the full range of dates to do that. I have an option here for all day or not. So some things that you put on your calendar may be something that's going to take all day. Some things you put on your calendar may be something that takes an hour or two. I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that. And when I do that, that's when I start to see the different times available for my event. And I can go in and select the specific time that I'm looking for. And I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and set this event here for 6:30. And I'm going to say that it's going to last 2 hours. I'm going to have it end at 8:30. I can also choose to have this as something that repeats or not. So if it's a one-time thing, I'm going to leave it as do not repeat. If this is something that happens every week, I can select that. If it happens every year, I can put that in. If it's something that happens the first of the Monday of the month, I can choose all of those. It can be something that happens every weekday, or I can go under custom and choose and say, you know what, I want it to repeat on Mondays and Wednesdays, whatever I need for that specific event. I also have the option to add in the location when I'm here. So I might say, you know what, this is happening at Harrington Library. When I start typing, it's going to pop up and give me the option. Put the librarian address in, and then I also have the options for my notifications. And Google very nicely defaults and says, hey, would you like to have some reminders that this is happening? I can get it 30 minutes, I can get it 12 hours, I can get it a day, and I can choose if I want a notification, which is something that's going to pop up on my calendar and go, oh, you have a thing, kind of like a pop-up window saying, hey, don't forget you're going to the thing, or I can have it do an email and say, you know what, send me an email 30 minutes before so I remember to get in my car and go over to this event that I'm doing. If I don't want those notifications, I can also just use the X and say, you know what, I only want to be emailed the day before. I don't need anything else. And then underneath all of that, I have the options for things like which calendar I want to put it on. Right now, it's defaulting to the only calendar that I have, but if you had multiple, we could change the calendar. And then the color that I want the event to be. And this is really helpful if you are a visual person and you like to organize things different ways. You might say, you know what, library programs, I'm going to do in blue. Interviews, I'm going to do in green. My job search research time, that time I'm setting aside to look for jobs and put in applications, I'm going to do in red. And that can help add some variation on your calendar to help see what you have going on at a glance. And you can also choose if you want it to show up as busy or free. And this is a way when you're collaborating with other people that they can see, oh, you have something during that time. Let me not schedule a meeting at the same time. If it shows as free, that signifies I can do something else. This is more flexible. I can move it. It's really just a personal preference. And then you have underneath the option to put in a description. If you wanted to add in any notes, you could attach files, anything that you need for that event. You can also come back at any time and edit all of this stuff into your calendar invite. The really only important things that we need to save it are going to be that title and when it's happening to get it onto the calendar. Once we've got that going, I can hit save. And now you'll see that I have something on my calendar. I can see that event's right there at a glance at my calendar to be able to get to. And now when I go and double click and open up that day, I can also see in more detail, I've got 2 hours of this time blocked for this specific event. So just to go through that one more time, I'm going to do it this time instead of going through the calendar day. I'm going to go through the create event and go under create event. And it looks a little bit different when I do it this way. The smaller window, not quite as many options. And I'm going to say, you know what, I've got a job interview. And I'm going to say that job interview is on March 17th. Right here. And it is going to be at 2 p.m. And this could be literally any event that you're practicing with, any event that you have going on. We're going to leave it at the default of an hour. Doesn't repeat. I don't have a location for it right now, but let's say I want to go ahead and make this look different on my calendar. I'm going to say, I'm going to turn this one red to show that it's an interview, something different. Hit save. Now my event's on there. And now when I go back to the month, there I've got my job interview there. I've got my program there. And you can see if I added in interview prep, and let's say this was on the same day that I was already doing just to show something at the same time. say I was doing that earlier in the day, and I picked a different color on that one, you can see that both of those little dots show the different colors. And then when I get into the day itself, I can see that color coding on there as well. So those are how we look at those kind of one-time events, the single job interview, the tour of the library programs, those one-time things. But let's say you have something that you want to set up on your calendar to happen on a recurring basis. And this can be done whether it's for all day, a specific time period. So I can say something that takes up every Monday. I can say 2 hours every Tuesday. It really doesn't matter what the event is. What we're looking at is how do I make it happen more than once? So when I go to create a new event, this time, I'm just going to call this one job search. I'm going to open up more options so I can get back into that bigger window. Right now it says does not repeat. And I'm going to say, I want this one to repeat weekly. And I'm okay with it being on Monday. That way I have a set time to be able to do this. And now I can say that it's a repeating event. I still have those options of whether or not I want notifications, if I want it to be busy. I'm just gonna make that one yellow just for fun. I've got that on my calendar with those event details. And if I go under custom, I also have the option of saying whether or not this thing ever ends. So if it's something like job searching, and I know, you know what, I'm gonna be doing this for a while. I don't know how long it's gonna take me to find a job. I can say end never. I want this to stay on my calendar until I come back and tell it to go away. But if I know, you know what, I'm doing interview prep for a specific job interview coming up next month, and I only want it to happen for a certain time period, I can say end it by this specific day. End it by May 1st. I know my interview's on the 2nd, so I don't need to do it after that. Or I can say end it after a number of occurrences. Say I want to evaluate after 5 times. If this worked for me, I can choose my number of occurrences and say end it then. So I'm going to go ahead and just do that for 5. I'm going to hit done. We've got that. And now when I save, I've got something that shows up on my calendar that I very inconveniently put on top of something else on my calendar, which Google will let you do. Great visual to say, I'm trying to do 2 things at once. That's probably not going to work. But when I look at the week, I've got it here. There it is the next week, the next week, the next week. It's automatically there. And then when I get into March, it's not there anymore unless I decide to go back and edit it. So that's a great way to put something in without having to retype the same thing over and over and over again. All right. You also have the option to create events from emails that you received with an event link. So I'm going to pop over to Gmail here for a second. And I can see that I've got a lot of different stuff going on in my email with different things. And I can look and see, is there anything here that I want to follow up on? And I can make events from my emails, but I can also make events from things that come with links. So for just a second, I'm going to pop over to the Plano Library website. And I'm going to show you what it would look like if we had done that for tonight's class. So when I go under our calendar, and it takes a second for that to load. And I scroll all the way down to today. Let's do more so we can see everything that's happening today. And here's the program series that I have going on. Here I've got the option from the website to add it straight to my Google Calendar, or I can go ahead and register online and do it. So if I did add to calendar and do Google Calendar, this is where we're talking about that seamless integration. It pops up, it tells me the thing, it pulls in all of the dates, I can hit save. And my beautiful event is showing up today with the information that I need for that event. But if I had gone through Zoom to register for my event, let me make sure I get our email correct. Let's close that out. And our imaginary Sarah Rockefeller. Once I have put in that information, I've registered for the thing. Now I should get an email confirming that registration, which may take a minute for it to come through. So while we're waiting on that, I'll also go back to all events. And let's say that I want to go ahead and register for the one that's coming up next month as well. Same thing. I can go in and say, where is the event on the calendar? Let's take a look at that. And I could go in, do the same thing, register online. In the interim, Zoom nicely sent us this job searching with Google confirmation. And what you'll see on events like this, and this may be if somebody has sent you a virtual meeting request, if you signed up for a library program, if you're doing continuing education, when you get that email at the bottom, you'll often see add to Google Calendar, Outlook Calendar, Yahoo Calendar. And again, when we do add to Google Calendar, it's going to ask me to sign in to that account, accept all of the permissions, and then it pulled up all that information. I can save the event onto my calendar. Now I've got it on there twice because we added it 2 different ways, but that's just another way that you can add things in from your email to get to the event. Those are ways to be a little faster about adding an event if it's something that you're pulling from somebody else so that you're not having to type in all of that information yourself. Okay, any questions on the basic adding of events? Awesome. Now let's talk a little bit more about how we manage the events that are on our calendar. So let's say I've got something on here. Let me go back and we're just going to use my interview prep as an example. I can hover over it and see the information. I can click on that pencil icon to edit it. Or if I double click, it's going to open up that window again to be able to edit the event. So this is where we're going to talk about some additional options. First, we're going to look at video conferencing. So let's say that you would like to do this online with multiple people. Google automatically builds in the option for Google Meet video conferencing, which lets you do your video straight through Google. If I do that, click that button, it's going to put in all of the information for people to be able to join online with me. And I've got a meeting ID now. I've got up to 100 people can join me. If I didn't actually want to do that, that lovely little X takes that right back off my event again. So it's really easy to undo if you put it on there and didn't need it. So if I do have that, then it's easy enough for me to share. I can copy that conference information to other people, and then I can also add in other people to that meeting, which I can do even if it's not a video conference. But here I've got a guest list to be able to say, these are more people who need to be part of this. So let's say I'm meeting with my friend who's going to help me prep for my interview. And I'm going to go ahead, start typing. Oh, hey, here's my friend. I can add in, this is where if your calendar is visible to other people, you'll be able to see I've got them added to the event, and then I can go ahead and send an email saying, hey, can you join me? Or anything else that I needed to send. Hit send. Now that has shown up for somebody else in their meeting invite to be able to join you for that meeting as well. And you can add as many people as you need. If you had somebody on there that you did not need anymore, you can hover over, use that little X, and remove them back off that meeting as well. And you can do this even if it's somebody who is not on Gmail. So the one that I sent to my plano.gov email address, and I can see the meeting invite, and that will sync with the calendar that I have there. I can send it to somebody else who's on Google. I can send it to any email that I need to send it to. But let's say if I was sending it to someone who had a Gmail and their calendar was visible, that's where that calendar information is going to show up a little bit better. Because I sent it to somebody who is not on Google, it doesn't sync quite the way we would like it to in terms of being able to see availability. So you might have a little bit more of that back and forth for, can you meet at this time? Do we need to reschedule kind of things? You will also have the option on your guests to give them permissions. So can they change the time on the event by modifying it? Can they invite other people to be part of it? And can they see other people that you have invited? If you don't want any of those options, really simple, just uncheck to remove those options or check to put them back on again. We talked about that location box a little bit earlier. That's a very easy way. You can put in an address if you know it. If not, you can try searching for it. So if you have no idea, you know what, I think it's somewhere in Dallas. It's okay. Well, it's probably not at the airport. Let me think. I think I was meeting somebody down at the, oh, yes, I was meeting somebody at the zoo. Perfect. That's what I'm looking for. Once I start typing, it'll give me those search options. Or if I had the specific address, it'll also start giving me suggestions based on whatever I'm typing that I can put those information in as well. So that's really helpful because not only does it remind you, hey, I need to build in travel time, I'm going somewhere, or this is online. It also lets you pull up that Google Maps link from your event as well. Let me just save that. When I pull up my event, I can very easily click on that link for the maps, see my directions if I need them, refresh, and have those directions ready to go. And like I said, it opens up in this little preview, but if I do open in Maps, I've got the full functionality of Google Maps to be able to do directions or see where I'm going. Let's close out of that. All right, close out of some of the extra stuff we've got going on here. So you can be notified as often as you would like on events. That default that Google has put in is that notification 30 minutes, 12 hours, and 1 day before. But you can add in notifications in as often as you want. So if you're a person who needs multiple reminders, you can do it every 2 minutes if that's what you need to be reminded. And for each one, you'll have that option for email or notification to pop up. So if you have, those notifications are great if you have Google Calendar open, but if I have closed Google Calendar, I'm not going to see that notification. It's just going to be a pop-up window that doesn't happen until after the event. So if you're not keeping your calendar open, email may be the better way to go so that you make sure that you have that email as well. And if you don't have your calendar open consistently, when you set your notifications, make sure you're thinking about that as well. If you're not going to have it open 10 minutes before, a 10-minute pop-up window is not going to help you. You might want the day before. When you know I'm checking my email, I want that reminder the day before so that I can see it. Things like that. So, I mean, I can even do something. This, I've got hours, days, minutes, you can see. I can even do weeks. And I can say, you know what, this is really important to me. I want to be notified 2 weeks before this event so I don't forget about it. It's very easy to customize to whatever you would like on your calendar. And like I said, you can just remove them off if you don't want those additional notifications anymore. So if you are choosing to use Google Calendar through your mobile device, you will have some additional options that do not show up in the web version. Like you can add in minutes and hours into those and say very specifically, you know what, I would like this notification at 8:25 a.m. That does not show up for you in the desktop option as well. Unfortunately, tonight, all we're going to cover is that desktop version. Now, attachments on here. When I click on that little paperclip icon, it gives me the option to attach things. I can attach things directly from my Google Drive, but I also have the option to upload. So if I have something saved on my computer, I can look for that file and say, oh, that is what I need. And it will attach it onto that calendar invite as well. This is really useful if you need to share something with someone ahead of a meeting. Say you're doing interview prep and you want your friend to be able to look over your resume. You can attach a copy of your resume onto that meeting invite so they can look at it. You can put copies of questions, or if you're using this just for yourself, you can also attach the specific version of the resume that you used for that job application so that you have it. Any portfolio information that you want to share as part of the interview. It'll just let you collect everything in one spot. So when you go back to that calendar notification, you've got everything that you need there in one spot without looking for it. And then if it's something else that you would like to remember, you've got that description option as well. And that's just a free text box that you can put in anything that you might want to. So maybe I need to remind myself that dress code on this one is business professional and allow 30 minutes for commute. Those are just little things that I can put in as details to remind me, this is what I'm doing. This is the thing I need to remember about this event. Again, once I save that, it saves all of that information into my event. And now when I hover over that event, I can see that information at a glance as well. I've got an address, I've got my notes, I've got that handout. I can see everything right in there in one spot without having to search all over for it. Another option that you have in Google Calendar is what we call the daily agenda. And this is an email that comes to you that tells you everything that you have going on your calendar that day, which can be helpful if you prefer to have something as a reminder that you're looking at, or if you want to look, you're already in your email and you don't want to flip back and forth between your email and your calendar. This is an option that you have. So let me close out of Google Maps here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my settings menu. I'm going to open up my settings. And I've got all kinds of notifications settings. I've got my alerts, I've got desktop notifications, I've got notification sounds. I also have options as far as putting in my events in that. I'm looking for my other notifications option, which is not showing up for me. So bear with me for just 1 second. Okay, so just to back up for what I did there. We were under our general settings for notifications. What we're going to do is we're going to scroll down to our specific calendar, find our calendar, and it's going to open up a whole nother list of options. And that's where you'll see that other notifications option. So what you can do is tell Google to set the same preferences for every calendar that you have, or you can personalize things for different calendars. But within those individual calendars is where you're going to get to things like your daily agenda. So under my other notifications, I have things like I can be notified of new events, changed events, canceled events, if people have responded to an event. And right down here, I have that option for daily agenda. The only option I have is to get that by email, but I can turn that email on. You should see a little pop-up once you've done that that says notification settings saved. That lets you know that Google's keeping up with you, and you should now get a daily email with the agenda for that calendar. So that means when I go into my email every day, I will start seeing that daily agenda of things going on. Unfortunately, I don't have a way to preview that for you because I just turned it on. But you can see here, this is the email that we sent just a minute ago inviting somebody to our event. You can see who was sent the information and that email went out successfully as well. But what's going to happen now is I'm going to pop up every day and see a list of what is happening in my calendar. And I can just see at that email, this is what I have going on, and I'm good to go for the day. If I ever decide that I don't want that, all I have to do is just go back under those settings, change it back to none, and I will stop getting those emails. Any questions so far? All right. Next thing I want to talk about is managing your time. So we've talked about doing different events. We've talked about doing those notifications that remind us of when something is coming up. Let's talk about using Google Calendar to create our tasks. And this is going to be using that tasks feature, which is an application that is used to create a to-do list. And it's this lovely one with the blue check mark. I can do that by just clicking on that, and that opens up the task menu so that I can see everything. I also have the option to download the tasks app on my phone as well, if I would prefer to do it that way. So tasks is exactly what you think it is from the name. It's a to-do list, and you can easily create new lists for different things. So I might have something for my personal to do, and I might have something for my job searching to do. And this is a great way to keep those things separate. First thing I'm going to do is under my tasks, select create a new list. And it's going to ask me, what do I want to call that list? And I'm going to call this one just job searching. Once I hit done, now you'll see I have different lists. I've got my tasks, and now job searching is its own list. And then I have an option underneath to add a task. All I have to do is click there and then decide, this is what I need to do. So I want to update my resume. I want to write a cover letter. I want to create a job search spreadsheet, whatever I need to do. I've got this whole list going on. I can also drag and drop to reorder those things, or when I click on them, I can add in additional details. So if I want to say, you know what, I'm going to work on this tomorrow at 10 a.m., I can do that. And now I've got a task going on for something that I want to work on. And you'll see here on my calendar, instead of having that little circle or the block of time, it's got a little check mark to say this is something on my to-do list. I can also tell it that I want to repeat it multiple times. I can go in and delete it if I don't need it. And then once I'm done with it, I can click on that little circle. My task is done, and it cleans up that to-do list for me. Right now, it's going to default to just crossing through. Hey, that thing's done. Great way to see I've made progress on this. You can also choose to have it hide that as well. And you can keep adding in additional tasks as you would like. But I can do this for as many things as I'd like. So I might create a new list and say, you know what, I'm going to call this one City of Plano and make a list specific to that job that I'm applying for. And so my task list might look a little bit different. I might say, I need to create an account to apply for jobs. And I might say, you know what, I need to go ahead and submit my application. And I need to get referrals for this position, and I need to follow up. And I can keep adding those things in. If I were to get an interview, I could go in and put the interview with the date and time and details about it and say, you know what, follow up. Maybe I want to put just a reminder myself, send a thank you note 1 week later. That reminds me what I'm doing with that particular task. And I can still assign it to the date and time that I would like to do that. It's a really great way to just keep things up to date, schedule time. If you like having a set time to work on something, you can put it on that calendar with a time that you know that you're working on it. And I can go back and forth between any list at any time and add in those tasks and say, oh, hey, I don't have anything going with City of Plano. Let me go ahead and schedule time to work on my resume. I'm going to do that on Thursdays. I'm going to repeat that one every day. And I'm going to say, I'm going to end it after 7 occurrences, because I think after a week, I'll have that done. And now I've got something on my calendar to remind me that I want to do that. If I haven't assigned a time to it, that's where it's going to pop up at the top of my calendar and just say, hey, this is something I need to do today. Versus if it was something that I wanted to have at a specific time, all I would need to do is say, set the time, update it, and now it's moved down to that time on my calendar that I want to work on it. Another thing that you can do with your calendar, and let me close out of our tasks menu again, is to create that focus time. And focus time is just a useful way to block chunks of time on your calendar to complete certain tasks or projects. So if you have a lot going on and you want to make sure that you have that dedicated time to work on something, focus time is a great way to do that. So I can do that by doing a recurring meeting, but I could also say, make this into a task. Well, let me switch over to my tasks. You'll notice here in calendar, what I was doing previously was just accessing tasks from the side menu. If I switch back and forth between the calendar icon and the check mark icon, I've got that bigger view of tasks and I can see multiple to-do lists at the same time to be able to see what's going on. And so I'm going to just add in a task here and I'm going to call it focus time. And for the details, I'm just going to make a note to myself that this is my job search, update my resume, send follow-up emails, etc. And again, I'm going to use that little repeating arrow to say this is something that I want to do often. I'm going to do it every week this time. I think Mondays are a great time for me, so I'm going to go ahead and select Monday, select off of Tuesday. And I'm not going to put an end time on this one for now. I'm going to leave it as going on forever until I actually get that job that I'm looking for. And then once I hit OK, boom, I've got that focus time with a typo. There we go. That focus time is on my task list all the time on Mondays. When I go back to my calendar, there it is on Mondays. There's my focus time. It's there. I know that I want to do it. I can mark that it's completed. But I've got that going on all the time. Again, if you prefer to have that block of time on your calendar, you could also go in on Monday mornings and say, you know what? This is my job search time. I'm going to block 2 hours every Monday, and I'm going to repeat it weekly on Monday for forever. And that can show up on my calendar just ongoing as an appointment that I have to myself to remind myself, hey, this is my time to do this. If you do put it on your calendar that way, it's kind of a visual reminder that I need this time set aside, but it's also a cue to other people who might be looking at your calendar. I'm not available during that time to work on other things because this is time that I've set for me. You can also use your email to create tasks lists as well. So when I open up an email, say I really like this job that I'm looking at here, I should see an option here in my email, this little check mark with a plus sign. That is my add to tasks option. And when I click on that, it's going to give me the option to choose which task list it belongs on. I can edit what I'm calling it, but it's got this email linked right into it. And let's say I want to follow up on this tomorrow. Let me go ahead and remind myself to do that tomorrow. I can close out of that. I can go back to my email and it's there in my task list. Now, when I go back to my calendar and I go back into tomorrow, now I've got this task showing up and it has that option view related email. I can click on that. It will bring that email back up for me, so I know exactly what I'm following up on. So that's a really quick way to remind yourself if you need to submit a resume, if you need to do interview prep, if you need to send documents for a job interview, or if they've requested, we need a copy of your transcript, we need a copy of your certification. You can use that add to tasks to go in and remind yourself, this is what I need to do. Have it on your to-do list and keep going through the rest of your email and then get back to that to-do list when you have time to work on it. All right. So that is calendar and tasks kind of as a big overview. We've looked at some different ways to put things onto our calendar with those to-do lists, with those calendar invites, with recurring appointments. The biggest thing on this is to customize it to what works for you. So whether that's color coding, whether that's blocking off set times, whether that's creating multiple calendars for different things, you do have that option. So I could say, I want to add in another calendar. Right now, I just have my calendar associated with my email, but I could create a new calendar and I could call it job searching. And I could create that new calendar. Google's going to think about it. It's going to take a minute. But now I have a new calendar in there. When I go back, I can look at multiple calendars at once now and see, oh, hey, let me go back to my month. When I'm looking at job searching, I don't have anything on this calendar. But when I'm looking at my personal calendar, I've got both. It's a great way for me to go back and forth and say, these are different things that I want to look at. Or since I've put some things on my to-do list, I can select, just look at my tasks and see what's going on my calendar at that point. And you can add in as many calendars as you want. So if you like things in one spot, stick with the one calendar and have that. If you like multiple things and have your job search and your personal life separate, you can do that with multiple calendars and go back and forth between the one that you're looking at. Okay. I'm going to let all of that information percolate just for a little bit while I talk about some additional resources that we have available. So we do have a handout from tonight's program that I think Eric will drop in the chat for those of us who are attending online, or for those in the room, we do have copies of that as well. That's just going to give you some of that step-by-step overview of the things that we did in class tonight. And then we did have a program 2 weeks ago that covered that Google Drive and Gmail. There was a handout available for that class as well. If you were registered for that and attended, you should have received that. If not, feel free to send me an email and I'm happy to connect you with that information as well. As a reminder, we do have 2 more classes coming up in this program series. So we are going to be doing resume design with docs in 2 weeks on February 13th, where we're going to get into what it looks like to create and format a resume and how to customize the information that you have on that resume. And then following that on the 27th, we will get into job search tracking using Google Sheets, and we'll talk about how to use spreadsheets to keep track of all of the moving parts that are your job search to know, am I on submitting an application? Am I on follow-up? Am I on interview? All at a glance in one spot. All of those classes you should be able to get to through the link that you used to register for tonight's class if you're joining us online, or they will also be here in person at the Harrington Library at 6:30 on those dates as well. All right, we do have some upcoming career classes that may be helpful for your job search as well. Our Job Resource Connection meets every other week at the Harrington Library, and these workshops are led by both professionals and library staff to give you the opportunity to network, learn new skills, and find support during your job search process. That next class is going to be next Monday, February 5th at 6:30 p.m. here at Harrington Library. And then coming up on Saturday, we do have that computer skills email basics class at Schimmelpfennig Library at 3 p.m. to talk about some of the basics of setting up and using your email. We'll also be covering PDF basics and elevator speeches later on in the spring. We've got PDF basics at Haggard Library on March 9th and April 28th. And then that elevator speech program will be on March 19th. Now, if you have a short, really quick question that you'd like library staff to answer, our Ask a Librarian service is a great way to do that. It's a really quick form you fill out online, sending us your question, the information you need, and then library staff will get back to you within 48 hours with that information. But if you're looking for some more personalized one-on-one attention, that's where our Book a Librarian appointments come in. They are 30-minute sessions that are tailored to your specific needs and questions. Again, you can fill out that form online, letting us know which building you prefer to come to, or we do have virtual options as well. Letting us know kind of what your question is. They'll match you up with the best person to answer those questions. And then we'll reach out within 2 days to set up that specific appointment to start going over your questions. And then for more tips and tricks using the Google Workspace, including calendar, tasks, Google Drive, Gmail, or anything else Google you might want to know, remember that you do have access to LinkedIn Learning and Udemy for free with your library card as well. You can access those through the Plano Library website to get to those database links, or reach out to library staff and we can give you some more instructions for accessing those as well. I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor to any questions that we might have before we wrap up for today. Yes, ma'am.
Short questions via Ask a Librarian. The librarian will reach out to you through email or through a call.
Generally, those are going to be through email, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up. So the question was how staff reach out with that Ask a Librarian question. So what we're going to do is go over to the library website, and we are going to determine where we moved. We moved some things around on the library website. Okay. We're gonna scroll down. Okay, so under this connect with us, there is that link to ask a short reference question, which is the Ask a Librarian form. And what you do, and it is going to be that email response. You could put in there and say, can you give me a call for more information? But this is designed to be an email back and forth. You'll put in your reference question that you have, any additional information that will help us answer that question, and then your name and contact information. You can put a phone number in there as well so that we can get back in touch with you But what this lets us do is respond as quickly as possible. So if it's just hey, I need some instructions on how to do this, but I don't necessarily need somebody to sit down one-on-one with me, we can shoot you an email back and say, hey, here's the instructions to get into LinkedIn Learning. Do this, do this, do this. You've got that for reference and you're good to go. So that is designed to be that just short email back and forth. The Book a Librarian gives you the option to do a bit more of that personalized and say, you know what, I'd prefer to do some time for specific questions. And you can say, I'd like to do a virtual option. If you were unable to do a video conference with us, we could set up a phone option as well to say, hey, let's set some time that you've got that 30 minutes that we're not going to be interrupted by anything else, that we can go through your questions and answer specifically what you're looking for. But same thing, is going to ask you for your name, how you prefer to be contacted, whether that's phone or email, and then some information for us about what you'd like help with, because that just helps us match you to the best person to help you answer that question.
Can you ask for a specific librarian to book a librarian program?
You can ask for a specific librarian if you have worked with someone or you know they have a particular skill set. I can't promise that that person would always be available, but we will try and connect you with a person if you have that specific need. And often, like if I'm working with you in class and you say, hey, I'd like to work with you some more, if you put my name on that, I'm going to do everything in my power to say, yes, let's find a time for both of us to work together on this. But we want to leave it open just in case I'm not here, I'm out for a month, that you're not hanging out forever to get that answer that you need. All right. Do we have any other questions tonight? Me pop back over here. So let me just pop up this closing slide here. Thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time tonight to go through some of the different things with Google. I really hope this class has been helpful for you. If you have any questions outside of today's program, please feel free to reach out to library staff, whether that's by email or through that Ask a Librarian or Book a Librarian that we've shared. And we're happy to connect you with additional information. If you do have feedback about today's program, what you liked, what you didn't like, I do encourage you to share that. That does help us create classes that are more in line with what you're looking for and be able to really make sure that library programs are meeting you where you are at. Okay. And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up tonight's program. Have a wonderful evening, and I hope to see you all in 2 weeks for resume design with Google Docs.